So welcome everyone. It's great to be doing another masterclass for Elevate Her Australia. I'm Jalinda Lee. I'm the founder and chair of Elevate Her Australia, and I'm coming to you from Cairns Northern Beaches, which is the Yirragandji lands. It's such a beautiful place. I'm so blessed to be actually living and working from this place. Today, we're going to do more of an interview info kind of style of masterclass. And we're actually doing that with Kayla. So Kayla Shearer is here today. Kayla is our network leader for Lean In Network Sydney, and she's also a board director for Elevate Her Australia. And also she's recently been to the Lean In Network Leaders Conference in San Francisco, where they actually announced the start of this new program called Lean In Girls, and it was launched there. So we're going to talk to Kayla shortly. But before I intro her, I want to clarify just our affiliation with that Elevate Her Australia has with Lean In, because that's not always clear. And I started Lean In circles back in 2014. They kicked off, I think, mid-2013 after Sheryl Sandberg wrote the book Lean In, and then Circle started sort of around that time. So I've been doing Circle since 2014. They brought the concept of networks. Circles really morphed all around the world, and people were getting together, and they were encouraging people to form chapters first and then networks. And so we started the network in 2019 of Lean In Queensland. And then and Kayla started hers in 2020 of Lean In New South Wales, and then later it became Lean In Sydney. At that time, Kayla and I were talking with some others also around Australia, and we started to set up and establish Lean In Australia, knowing that there was things like Lean In Canada and Lean In Malaysia. Kayla had experience with Lean In Malaysia. So we started looking at doing that. And then right at that time, you know what 2020 was like. So right at that time, Lean In, while there was this big pause on circles running and stuff, decided to do a complete program structure, a restructure for their networking. And what came out of that, what fell out of that, it took about 6 months, was that they decided not to license anymore or support any more national or countrywide networks. It was just too big. They'd got out of hand in some of the other countries, and they just wanted to focus on circles, individual circles, and then smaller networks that are based in cities or principalities. So because we'd already established we weren't quite established, but we've kind of, done all of the stuff leading up to it, we decided to continue with a national alliance. And my circles were originally always called Elevate Her. So we made our national alliance Elevate Her Australia. So it's a national kind of evolution, if you like. To support the Lean In Circle side of what we do in Elevate Her Australia, we rolled out a National Circle Leaders Alliance. And that's where bi-monthly now, we were doing them monthly last year, but we've swapped it up a little bit this year. Bi-monthly, we run open door Q&A sessions. And that's mainly for circle leaders or people that are interested in finding out, how to run a circle, how to set one up. At the moment, we have about 400 members, Elevate Her Australia, and about 2,000 or a bit over 2,000 followers or supporters across our platforms. So the stuff we do with Lean In is just a small part of what we do in Elevate Her Australia. It mainly fits under our networking pillar or strategy. We also do education, which is this masterclass style stuff. Programs on inquiry, so we can run programs and things for organisations if they ask us to come and do so. Speak at some International Women's Day stuff and other women's networks things as well in that education piece. Usually to do, obviously, with gender equality and our mission, which is increasing the number of women leaders, across everywhere in our country, in our communities, in our whole area, basically, and in our companies as well. So just really supporting more women at decision-making tables. We also do some advocacy stuff. So if you see us pop up sometimes where we're really supporting things that AGEC, Australian Gender Equality Agency, does, or UN Women, we are a member of both those organisations. So every time there's some sort of, initiative that happens, we swing behind that as well and promote that also. So that just gives you a little bit about what happens with Elevate Her Australia and how it kind of fits with the stuff we do with Lean In. I want to give you a bit of an intro now to Kayla. I've done enough speaking. It's time for Kayla. So just a little bit about her. As I said, she's been involved with the Lean In Global Foundation, I think, Carla, if I've got this right, since about 2018, because it was originally when you were in Malaysia. Yeah,
2016.
2016, there you go. I think I only met you around 2018. Network leader for Lean In Sydney since its foundation in 2020. So as an Elevate Her Australia board member, Kayla was instrumental in us getting established as a national alliance because it was Sydney and Queensland and whatever coming together. So Kayla holds a leadership role in a global company that's based in New York, lives in Sydney, and it's a company that's disrupting the status quo, which is her juice. She's really it's her ideal happy place when she's working in a place that's really driving change. And she leads a team of professionals who are dedicated to their craft and who love to collaborate, solve problems and grow together. Kayla absolutely loves empowering women, particularly mothers, to remove the barriers and live more purposeful lives and have a really full career rather than feeling like they can't. So over to Kayla. Kayla, we at Elevate Her Australia were so pleased that you could attend the Lean In Network Leaders conference in July in San Francisco. I want you, if you wanted to start by telling us a little bit about that, like, you know, like how many network leaders were there from the program, because it's a global program, countries they came from, and just the vibe. What was it like going to that conference?
Yeah, absolutely. So I attended this Network Leaders Conference this year. It hasn't been run since 2019 because of obviously what's been going on in the world. So it had a really good atmosphere this year. We were celebrating being able to get back together in person. There were 83 network leaders from 29 different countries around the world. And it was really good to be able to sit together and talk and listen to speakers that were all had a common goal to achieve, and in some way affiliated with Lean In. So we all have common values as well. Some of the conversations that we had, we were talking about, you know, leading our networks, how we can get women involved, how the world's changed and how that's impacted getting women into leadership and having more women in leadership across workplaces, across organizations, across governments. It was really, really collaborative and exciting, and it just felt really electric, like the atmosphere there. So yeah, that was in late July, and one of the purposes of the conference this year was actually to launch Lean In Girls, the program. It's something that the organization Lean In has been working on, doing a lot of research around, trying to roll out this program for a couple of years, but this seemed like the perfect moment to sort of action that with all the leadership around. So that's what the conference was this year. Yeah.
Sounds great. And I can just imagine the vibe in the room, you know, because these network leaders, we kind of connected, you know, ages ago, you know, before COVID and stuff, and they were running these conferences, you know, before that. I think they ran about 2 or 3 in the lead up before that. But yeah, it's nice because we can all connect online anyway, so there's still chatter that was happening globally, and I enjoy that too as being part of the network leaders thing. But to get all together in the same room, I can just imagine the noise, yeah. The electric vibe and the chatter, and I haven't seen you for years, so you know, that's always nice. Yeah, I always say too, when women get together, it's the same for circles. When women get together to have, you know, robust conversations about issues, there's such a power in that. There's such a change that can happen, a shift that can happen when we all work together. So brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
We better get into the Lean In Girls program, because I'm excited to hear more about it too. So can you tell us what the program is, like an overview, perhaps the mission and the reason they put it together, and the goals around it?
Yeah, for sure. So Lean In, like Cheryl wrote the book 10 years ago now, and well, it's had an impact in the world, and we've established circles, and a lot has come out of those circles for adults. There's a real drive to, like, if we look at the research, it's indicating that the gender equality gap, the statistics are showing that at the current rate of progress, it will take 285 years for the world to achieve gender equality, and 132 years to close the global gender gap. And I think looking at these numbers, the organization really looked back at, like, what else can we do to accelerate this change in our world? And one of the ideas that Rachel Thomas, the CEO of Lean In, sort of brainstormed together with the team, and also through shared life experiences, came up with that maybe the idea is that we need to go younger. Maybe we need to be educating girls younger about inherent biases and stereotypes that they're exposed to. But if we talk about it earlier, if we talk about this information earlier in a girl's life, then we can skill them with whatever they need to be able to actually make a change when they know these biases exist and when they know these stereotypes exist, and how when they go into the world, if they already have the leadership skills and the knowledge to be able to tackle those things, then we should be able to accelerate the rate at the change that's happening in the world, with the gender equality gaps that we currently have.
Yeah, I can see that. You notice it. I think there's been some other studies done in Australia too around education and achievements for girls, and equal or better than boys all the way through until they get to that kind of early teenage stage, like 10, 11, where they start to pull back. They start to feel there's certain things girls shouldn't do or can't do, and the boys tend to then excel a little bit more. And that's been a gender equality piece that's been done too about why that happens.
Yeah.
Generally, they talk about societal norms. By the time they're, our belief systems form between the age of about 7 and 9, is what psychologists tell us. So they're getting a lot of subliminal messages out there in society about what girls should do and what boys should do and stuff. And by the time they're 10, 11, 12, that's starting to become entrenched. So I'm assuming that's why they're looking at that age group. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So the age group they're looking at rolling this out is 11 to 15. It's an age group that, like, young people are still interested in learning, and they're still sponges for information, but they have a little bit more maturity, and they're a little bit, it's better for them to be able to understand what the actual world is going to be like when they finish high school or go to university or get their jobs and things like that. So it's a good age group to sort of help them with their self-assurance and resilience and inclusive leadership attitudes that they can then take into their early adulthood years.
I like that. I like that it's actually giving them a reality taste, Kayla. Like it almost, we don't want to at years 11 to 15 completely get rid of their childhood, but it is getting rid of the fairy tale ideas of, this is what little girls are made of and this is what little boys, that kind of stuff that gets still thrown around, into when they come up against these things, and you will, and this is what it looks like. I imagine the first component would be around awareness, yeah?
Yeah, so there's 2 parts to the program. There's actually 4 parts to the program. There's a free part, which is the first 2 components, and a paid for part. But actually the first 2 parts of the program are about so there's a kickoff session, redefining leadership, and then there's celebrating superpowers. So that is like getting young girls to recognize their leadership skills from a young age, and then so this is putting their values into action and then leaning on their strengths.
Okay, so it's more aspiration first about why be a leader, what that looks like, and then bring in some awareness of what they might come up against.
Yes, so the second part is about the awareness piece. There's 4 different workshops that are available online. They're 1 hour each, and they are really about challenging those stereotypes and designing the focuses there about what can be done. So the names of the 4 workshops there are challenging the stereotypes, reframing failure, embracing risk-taking, and setting bold and healthy goals. And I think they're all really, really important, because if you think about the things that hold young women back, failure, risk-taking, setting goals, and challenging stereotypes that they're about to face. They're all things that, if we were educated about them earlier, I'm sure our early 20s would have looked very different.
Yeah. Okay. So I did go a bit off script there, because I was just keen to, I was keen to pick up on some of the things you said in that opening statement about like the purpose around it, which is really good. Maybe let's just go back to what's the structure of the program, and what are the activities and key components in there? Is there some stuff there that you want to just give us a bit of background first before we get into the nitty-gritty?
Sorry, I'll just go back to that part. So there's 4 parts to this program, and the first 2 parts are available online to download, and they're free. There's the first section has a kickoff meeting, and then the 2 sessions, like the aspirational sessions, I guess. And then the second part is these 4 topics about tackling stereotypes and biases and this. Then there's an additional 2 pieces, 2 sections that can be that is paid for. If you, for example, were running an organization or holiday workshops, or in a school, you might be interested in purchasing those to run those programs with young girls. All this program, both the free part and the paid part, are set up to be delivered by an adult facilitator in a setting with children and the 11 to 15-year-olds. The work that's available to download, the facilitator guide, as well as the workbook that can be printed out, is really aimed at that age group of 11 to 15. It's like, a lot of these are adult concepts, but being able to explain them in a very childlike, teen-like manner is I think it's really empowering for children to be able to understand adult concepts as children. So that's how it's set up as the program. Yeah, and it's all available through. They've set up a new website, so there's leanin.org, but there's also this website, which is leaningirls.org. So it's similar to running, I guess, a circle like we do with adults, that we, we have different leadership topics, different
things,
whatever we want to achieve, but you can run it with a small group of girls instead. So it's set up to be run the same way.
Nice. Yeah. I did have a quick look, on the leanin.org website, and I noticed at the top of their website there, because obviously this is a new program and they're promoting it, if you click on the Lean In Girls panel at the top, hero image or whatever you call it, it takes you straight to that new website. And it's really quite, I like it. It's fresh, it's bright, it's colourful, it's, it kind of has quirky caricature kind of, young girls and stuff, as the features. And it really does clearly say what it's about just in those couple of first slides that it comes up. I also noticed that Lean In on LinkedIn, I see it more so on LinkedIn, have got a few little, what would you call them, video style and meme style promo tiles and stuff that they're doing as well, with just key points.
A lot of those were filmed at the launch party that we were in Palo Alto. So at the launch party when we were there, they had a lot of the teachers were there that were involved in building this program. So we mixed with everyone. We spoke to those people. It was great. They explained how they had run the pilot in their schools and the impact it had on the girls that had participated, and they saw their confidence levels increase, and they saw them be able to, articulate very clearly when they came across a stereotype or when a bias came up in the classroom. And being able to do that in the classroom is only going to lead to do that in the boardroom in 10 years later. Like, it's great. So yeah, a lot of those promo videos were filmed at the launch party. There was a lot of girls that attended that had been in the pilot program. Yeah, it's great. A lot of the memes and like little videos and artwork, it's very enticing. I think they've really got the brand on point for this age group.
For that age group. And that's important. As you said, I really like how you said, you know, when we're talking bias and barriers and stuff we're going to come up against, it's kind of like old societal norms. You often get young people, you know, even people like me, but young people as well, that just switch off. As soon as you hear, they go, oh, same old, we've been dealing with this for, you know, decades. But when you actually see live scenarios of how it plays out still with our next generation leaders coming through, I think it's really good that they've done that adult concepts, but explained in an age appropriate way for the target market. I think that's great. I noticed that too when I was looking through. I thought, this is good. Now we know that young people don't play much on Facebook, and I do see these things on LinkedIn, which is where I play. Do they have this on, is it TikTok or, you know, Instagram or wherever these young people play?
I'm not that young. I don't even have TikTok, but it is on Instagram. They have an account that is that has a lot of good imagery there, and they're posting some of these interview clips there. I'm not sure if it's on TikTok. They do have a Facebook page, but I guess that's aimed more at the facilitators that would join the Facebook group and discuss, like, because they would be adults, discuss, you know, if they had any issues with the program running it, or is there a better way that I could be engaging? Yeah, so there's the Instagram, there's the Facebook account, there's the website, but I guess the outcome that we're hoping to achieve with this program is that we are hoping that, you know, after school cares and holiday programs and schools will pick it up to be able to integrate it into that early teen education piece.
Yeah.
Or parents. It's also a really good resource just for parents. If you're a parent with a 11 to 15-year-old girl and this program isn't run in a school, and, you know, I didn't learn this in school. If this program, if you're not going to a holiday camp that is running this, it's a great resource for parents to pick up and have these discussions with your teenage daughter at home.
Yeah. And as you say, that the links that are on the website, that's accessible to everyone, the resources. You mentioned before there was downloadable workbooks, printable, and did you say discussion papers, facilitator papers?
There's a facilitator guide.
Right.
And there's there's the workbook for the children.
Okay, yeah. So, like, as you said, if you're doing it just as a parent, you could download the facilitator guide, go through how to take them through whatever the programs are online.
Yeah.
And excuse me for I haven't actually gone in and looked at that. So, and no one else has on this call either. So really good for us to get an idea. Are there online modules, or is everything kind of in a written thing? And a second question on that is, are there like videos for them to watch and then a discussion paper that goes with it, or what's the format?
There's a lot of pictures in the guide, like when we're talking about leadership, when we're talking about careers. There's a lot of like imagery that I've noticed within the guides. I'm not 100% sure on the video part, because even though I know the program, I haven't actually done it.
Gone in and played with it.
Yeah. But I know that I've looked at the children's guide. I was looking at it before, and I noticed that there's a lot of imagery in there. Good. With like how you can be a different leader. Because I guess one of the things is like redefining what leadership is to girls, and that whole area. So there's a lot of imagery there.
I like that. And maybe take us back just a little bit on that, because obviously their purpose around this is to do with more women sitting at the leadership table as we go through our age groups and stuff, but then to make sure they're not, I guess the term that I've seen Sheryl Sandberg use when she talks about leaning in is that at a particular age, even young women in their 20s are starting to lean out of their career and of those aspirational goals that they might have. So the idea of this is to actually show them they can do this and not think that's not for them. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think the whole redefining what leadership actually is, because you don't just have to have a job to be a leader. You don't just have to be a manager to be a leader. You don't just have to, there's so much, like, leadership is many things. Leadership is standing up for what you believe in your peer circle. It's you know, telling somebody when you hear them say something that is a stereotype or is a bias. It's saying, I don't agree with that. That's still leadership. Leadership is many things. Leadership is acting with empathy when you're having a conversation with your peers in a class, like talking to an adult. Like, you can lead at any age. And I think that girls, especially when they start to lose this confidence piece in that teenage year period, they also think, well, I can't be a leader. I can't be a leader because I'm not the strongest physically, or I'm not the top of my class, or I didn't get into that course at uni, or whatever it could be. Like, I think the whole point is to redefine leadership so that you can show leadership skills in anything that you do, whether you become a stay-at-home mother, whether you get a job, whether you want to work for the government, like whatever it can be. At any level, you can show leadership by leading with empathy.
Love that. Absolutely love that. I mean, my background's leadership stuff and leadership development. And when you see that, that you can teach them at a younger age that leadership isn't just, running the country or having to go for an elected position so that you're a leader. It's really more about self-leadership. So even the stuff we do with adults, often we've got to pare it back to, hang on a minute, you've got to start with self-leadership before you can lead others. And all those things you just mentioned about that compassion, that standing up for what's right, your values, speaking up when something, isn't right. That's stuff we teach adults, but isn't it great if we could teach them much younger to do that, and feel that they do have a voice? Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I noticed just in my notes, some of the things there's the leadership piece, and then it goes into challenging the stereotypes. And then I noticed in some of the session material, there's things like how to challenge those stereotypes. So that takes courage, which again is leadership. And then I saw that there's also something about failure, how to reframe failure. How important is that for young women?
So important. I don't know, everybody has their own personal experience with this, but as a young woman, in the work, I'll just talk from my own personal experience here, but as a young woman in the workplace, if you don't know how to deal with things like failure, or you didn't get that promotion, or you didn't get the job you wanted, it's being able to reframe this and go, well, that isn't for me today. Being able to understand that there are other options, that you can still be a leader just because what you thought was the perfect path to do wasn't successful. It's the confidence piece. It's really about the confidence piece, to be able to keep going, keep seeing yourself in that light, to be able to achieve what it is that's next. The guide as well, the program is written in a very childlike way. They talk about stomping out stereotypes, and they physically get the children to stand up and stomp their feet. So it incorporates things that will be memorable. So all the program is written so that even though, I know you've been to learning and development courses, I'm sure, and you're yes, and then the next day you're what did I learn this? I feel like this program's really written so that children will remember these things.
Good. Mindset changes.
Remember when we all stood up and stomped out those stereotypes? And then when you hear a stereotype being mentioned in a work setting, you'd be hey, stomp out stereotypes. It would just click for them. And
Mm.
it's the same with reframing failure, with taking risk, and with how to do goal setting. Like, I never learned how to do goal setting as a child. It was something that I was learned much, much later in life. Like, if you were able to know that, sure, we're going to reframe this failure, we're going to sit here with this feeling, and we're going to set a goal from it. Like, how much more would you achieve?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, you know, for women, just going back to, you know, what we've been through, and I'm a different decade to you, Kayla, as well. And, you know, you think back on when you were younger, you were almost seen and not heard. You were too young to be thinking like that, to have such great ambitions. One phrase that I've actually used, and I used it in my book, actually, and it's not disrespectful to my mum who just passed away recently, but it was just something that rolled out of her mouth, and it just blew me away. And it's not that many years ago that she said it, but I realized she'd been saying that a lot in my sister and I growing up, when we were at those kind of younger ages with big ambitious goals. And the saying is, oh, be careful, don't get too big for your boots. It was just one of those old sayings that when you actually unpack that, what that does to your mindset is there's a limit in how far I can dream and have aspirations. And anything over that is I'm being too big for my boots, whatever, you know, whatever you want to make that mean. And I challenged her on it at the time. And she sort of said to me, I don't know where it came from. I think it's just something my father used to say to me when I was a young girl growing up with big ambitions or big dreams, I think is what she.
And it's so inherent.
And that blew me away, because this is exactly what this is. Young girls with big dreams coming up against all sorts of things, you know, and going, hang on, that's not what we need to be doing.
Yeah, and it's really inherent in our society when you think about like nursery rhymes, or, you know, little things that we tell children, like sugar and spice and everything nice. Like, people are telling this to 2-year-olds. Like, these are the stereotypes that we need to be removing, to remove the barriers for women in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I do recall I didn't do fairy tales very often at all with my children. I didn't like to tell them things that just weren't possible, that weren't real. But that's me not really having that, you know, well, I am creative, but not having that kind of fairy tale thinking. I like them to know what's real. And that's a long time ago. But I noticed my daughter with her children too now, very conscious of, she's got a young 5-year-old girl and a 2-year-old boy, and just very conscious of even the toys you buy them. The things that you decide they need to be wearing because they're going to a little girl's party. Do they have to dress as a fairy? I mean, really, you know, like, so just, you know, we're more aware of it these days than we were. But I love seeing how they've taken that and gone, we're still not making changes quick enough. We need to put succinct programs in place that helps helps educate them. Kayla, I just wanted to say before, I wanted to, you said about what this does in relation to entrenched thinking. They won't forget this training because there's entrenched phrases and thinking. I love that.
Yeah, it's great.
Because that's about mindset change.
Yeah.
And they're at that perfect age where they're embedding beliefs and mindsets. And if you can give them the right mindset from there, that's tremendous.
Yeah, it's that neurological, like, it's setting it as a in there. Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah.
And even if they don't listen in class, even if, you know, they will remember.
Yes.
Because it will happen in their life when they're in a boardroom or when they're in a meeting, and somebody else will take credit for their work. And they'll go, hang on a sec, this is that bias we were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Lean In has always been very good at doing it. They're slow at bringing out programs because they spend a lot of time doing the research around it. They work with universities, they work with, you know, particular sectors. They take a pilot one, you said before, and, you know, a draft version, if you like, and go out and do a pilot program around it to see if it works. They tweak it further. So I'm hearing that they've done that with this, because I know they were talking Lean In Girls pre-COVID, so quite some time ago. So spent years developing this.
At the conference, I met a lot of the research employees of the organization, and I was so surprised at how what a big proportion of the organization at Lean In is actually the research team. They spend a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of money doing the research to get it right.
Yeah.
And they ran this as pilot programs, they changed the program, they want to make sure that the messages that they're sending out are the correct ones that are going to aid change. So
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. There's been a lot of research done. There's been a lot of
Nice.
time and energy spent on the program.
Yeah, excellent. That's really good. And I know that also from their previous programs, because we run Banish Bias or 50 Ways to Fight Bias programs, which was a lean-in one as well, and they did a lot of research around that. So without sounding negative, I just want to know, because you've looked at the program a little, some of the things, because lean-in is based in America, some of that really heavy research they do with their own universities and their own, issues that they have with like, as they call it, blacks and the discrimination, the intersectional discrimination when you're a woman and you're black, or when you're Latino, and they use that kind of language in some of their program material. Do you think with this Lean-In Girls one, it is, there's anything there that wouldn't fit with Australian young girls?
I know what you're saying, because I think that the research paper they release every year on the women in the workplace,
Yes.
which is the McKinsey study, is based on US
American stats.
Yeah. And I think we look at that every year and go, oh yeah, this is great, but doesn't apply 100% to what we're doing. I don't feel that way about this program.
Good.
I feel that these are conversations that we should be having with young girls and with our daughters and with anyone we know that this would apply to. I don't feel like it's too Americanized.
Nice.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, we need the diversity pieces. Don't get me wrong. We actually need that, because, we're also in Australia made up of a lot of different cultures and a lot of different skin colors and, ages and phases. And so we really do need that. It's just sometimes the language around that. But, I think if it's a universally designed piece, that's fantastic. And, Lean-In's a global organization.
Yeah. No, I feel like this program it's good to go. From what I've seen, I would love to see it rolled out. So I guess this is the next sort of topic that we just need to quickly touch on, and that is that, if you're interested in hosting, this program, how are you going to go about doing that? Like, of course, all the resources are available online. Feel free to reach out to us. If you have any questions, like, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to put you in touch with the organization if that's what you would like. But everything's available on the website. The intention with this program is for it to be picked up by schools, by holiday camp facilitators, by after-school care programs, people that have that access to the 11 to 15-year-olds. Also by parents that just want to educate their children. But yeah, absolutely happy to facilitate conversations if you are interested in rolling out this program. But everything is available online.
Yeah, I like that they do that. It's similar to the circles programs they have, where we encourage women to start up their own circles, run their own circles, because how to run a circle, facilitator guides, videos you can watch, discussion papers, it's all on there on the site, and it's just a matter of pulling that together. And our role in Elevator Australia is to help support circle leaders. So similar to this, if you're wanting to start a program within the school, you're not quite sure how or where to find the resources, absolutely reach out. That's a great point.
Yeah.
I've noticed we've got an extra person that's come online just recently, which is fine. I just wanted to reiterate that we had quite a number of people register for this masterclass, or this interview with Kayla. And that happens with all our masterclasses. We end up with a small number that actually jump online when it's live, and then they watch it later. So thank you for jumping on live halfway through. I hope you got a little bit out of what we've been saying. What I'd like to do now is throw to some questions, because we have a small group. It's very easy for you to come offline and ask us anything while we've got Kayla here, in relation to the Lean-In Girls program or in relation to Lean-In in general. Any questions? Hi, Kim. I just get you to take off mute if you're asking a question. No?
I was like, hang on. I'm just wondering, I've been listening, and actually earlier this morning I was on a adaptive leadership webinar with Christine Nixon, which was very good because it's very similar things that you're talking about for younger groups, sort of your story and what's impacted you and what you've been told, which shapes your thinking and creates those barriers for you. I was just thinking about the age groups. Have you thought about any platforms you could access that would really promote this? So I know like Taryn Brummer, who did the Embrace the Body Image, she's got a program in schools. It would be maybe good to access like some like-minded groups, but they're in a different sort of realm. Like hers is about body image, whether those are things that you could like work together and platform on.
Yeah, so I mean, in the US, this is being rolled out through Girls Inc. I guess the thing in Australia, it's about bandwidth for us. Like I'm running the network for Lean in Sydney. I know Dillinger is running many programs in Northern, where she is. I don't have the capacity to take this on as a project myself. However, if a group wanted to, like I could facilitate conversations between Lean In and the group. But I guess for me personally, it's about capacity. I have a full-time tech job, and I already run circles in Sydney and facilitate the network here. But I do hear what you're saying, and I do agree with it. But we would need somebody to pick up the baton and go, I want to run this in Australia. I want to roll it out.
Yeah, I'm aware that and this is where Lean In is very centralized in the US, and they have connections there. They probably don't in Australia. So from an Elevate Her Australia point of view, yes, Kim, I agree with you. There are a number of agencies already working within schools that run programs that they're probably very interested in the fact that this is available. So we will connect with those from a point of view of sending out our newsletter with this in. And I do have some connections to some of those, but thank you for the one about Taryn. I do know Taryn and the body image stuff. I hadn't thought of her. If you've got others that you think would like us to, let them know about this program, and we could send this video to them, as well as the links. If they want to get in touch with us, then they can get in touch with us. So we're happy to do that. So when we send this out to all our members, this video, or this class recorded, we that will go to 400, but we will also invite our followers, which is more than 2,000, to reach out if they would like, to send it to their network. So we'll be encouraging that to be sent more broadly. We're also promoting it on our LinkedIn and Facebook group pages as well. So it's just been released recently. Every time Lean In puts something up, we're basically coming in behind it and going, hey, this is out there. But you're right. One other thing on that is we've already had an interest in from Rotary. Rotary locally here in Cairns actually does some work in schools, and they actually partner with another agency. I can't think of their name at the moment, but they actually do some things with school aged. I'm not sure if it's just girls, but they're already interested in looking at this. So yeah, where you've got agencies that are already doing that. One thing that Kayla didn't say, we have talked about it at our Elevate Her board meeting, is that in Australia we have very strict rules. Kim, you'd be very aware of this with the work that you do. Very strict rules about who can actually go into schools. You need your correct credentials, blue cards or whatever they are. And so you can't just say anyone can go and deliver this into schools. There would need to be a more structured and approved process for this to happen in schools, but it doesn't have to happen just in schools. Kayla, anything else on that?
I was going to say, like, there's already like the platforms. So like in
Yes.
Canberra, there's the Canberra Young Women's Association, yes, who do a lot of this kind of development at every level, or agencies like, sorry, excuse the dog, the mailman's here, like brownie groups and scout groups and Zonta, and like there's so many organizations that kind of already work in this field. It would be great to get them on board and delivering that kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we will reach out to them further. This is our first foray into just letting our members know through Kayla just returning from the launch about what the program is. And certainly we just want, I mean, the resources are free. Kim, you're probably fairly familiar with the fact that you can go on to Lean In and download all sorts of things, videos with discussion papers with it. That's what they tend to do, is build quite a bit of an education program stuff that's readily available. One thing that Sheryl Sandberg, who started all of this with the Lean In movement, is absolutely adamant about and will not change, which is really interesting, is that, you know, their foundation that she set up with her husband, who passed away, and then her new husband's come on board now too. They have this foundation where they're funding all of this massive research and stuff that happens, and they're very much into the research. So it's really important work that she wants to make sure is spread broadly, and to spread it broadly, she insists on all of it, or if not all of it, the majority of it being free and readily available and easily accessed. So yeah, that's a good thing. So I think, you know, also Elevate Her Australia doesn't own this. We're basically talking to you about it because we have the affiliation with Lean In. It is owned by Lean In and it is available to anyone out there. So it's just a really good program. Gina or anyone else have any other questions? I'm mindful of the time.
No, nothing from me. I'm still digesting all of that. So thank you guys. That was fascinating and exciting, mostly. Exciting to think that we can. I still see, I still watch my boys. I see them with their young female friends, and I just shake my head and think, man, have we really not gone further than when I was a young girl? I hear what comes out of their mouth. And I think 30 years later, and I still hear them saying similar things. So this is exciting. And I think, yeah, if we could get it rolling out, I mean, how many lives could it change?
Absolutely.
The next 30 years, hopefully someone else's mum will be looking back and saying, well, finally we can see the change, and girls are stepping into bigger spaces. So yeah, that's exciting. And thank you for sharing that.
No problem. And I love that too, because this is the pipeline.
Yes.
This is the next generation of our leaders, that if we can educate them earlier and we can have more women at decision-making tables, which is our mission for Elevate Her Australia. And the reason for that is that drives change. That gets rid of the old stereotype stuff. It gets rid of the entrenched biases and things. If you've got more women at decision-making tables, more diversity, you know, different age groups, like we just really need to embrace all ideas.
And also, even though we're aiming at young women, it will also be impacting their families, their parents. So it goes up the line. We think it just comes down the line. It's not going to stand, it's actually going to go up, because they see change in attitude and people ask questions, and that generation won't accept that kind of behavior. And that's when we see massive change. Like we already see that now with what's going on in the workforce, where the young ones won't accept certain managerial behavior. It's already forcing change. So yeah, I mean, how exciting is that?
Yeah,
And
love that.
There's also the statistics about, like, once they get to a certain age, they stop listening to their parents and more they only listen to their peers. And, you know, if we're educating them young enough, they'll be able to have these conversations with their peers. I have a 14-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter. And I think that I'm already reaching that point with my teenage son. Like, he doesn't listen to me, but he listens to his mates. And I'm already thinking about how I can change the way that I parent so that my daughter grows up knowing all of this before she gets to that point.
Yeah. It's a big task, isn't it?
No.
It really hits home when you're involved in that. It really does. And, you know, I think it's important. I'm stoked that they've done this program, frankly, because I think that it has shown that, you know, we can't just keep doing things the way that we have been doing. I've been a feminist all my life. You know, I pushed back at the age of 13 at high school when I was told I had to choose cooking and sewing as a subject. You know, I thought, what a waste of my education. But, you know, that was, I'm talking many, many decades ago, and we still have, not that, but we still have things that we're pushing through. So to form a program with the whole idea, or what drove that program was that things are happening too slowly. And we have the same barriers and blockages that hits every generation of women as they come through the workforce. Get them earlier, I think is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Kayla, was there anything else you wanted to add that we've missed at all?
I don't think so. I think that's a fairly good overview of what the program is. I mean, I'm sure there'll be more questions, and we're happy to answer. I'm happy to answer. I'm sure you are. So if anybody has any questions, you know, they can reach us through the website or through our LinkedIn profiles, and we'll be happy to like jump on and answer anything that comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. When we do the recording of this, we usually put the last tile up as our contact details, so that will go in. And also, please have a look at the Lean In Girls program on there. You can go to leanin.org, and you can also go to Lean In Girls.
leaningirls.org as well. Yeah.
leaningirls.org.
The banner on the Lean In page at the moment
Takes
links
you
to
there.
Lean In Girls, but yeah, either, and you can download the materials, the facilitator guide, everything's available. It's really good.
Yeah. Okay. So we encourage you to do that, and reach out. This has been great, Kayla. Thank you very much. As I said, we were really pleased that you got to go to that conference, heard about the launch, learnt more about the background behind it and the reason for it, which I think is always important. When you know why, it's easier then to take it up and go, oh, I get it now. So thank you for that. We will have our next masterclass for Elevate Her Australia. I think it's the end of October. Be the last Friday in October, I think. I'll work that one out. I think that's right. Because yes, that's right, Kayla, because we changed this one, didn't we? We originally had this for last week. So I will send that out in a newsletter to everyone as well. So have an awesome afternoon, and thank you very much for joining us. And for those of us listening to the recording, reach out if you'd like to know anything further. Thanks very much.